spoil the ending though, she's ex-ministry too. So there will be another person at the ex-clergy table. Laura's dad's a pastor. Maybe we'll all take a picture in the back. We'll be signing those if you donate to Oasis. Candace Gorham, okay, I'm just going to jump in. Since the publication of her book, Candace has noted a marked increase in the number of Black people who have openly given up their religious beliefs. In her talk, Candace explores some of the reasons for the benefits of these changes. Candace is a licensed professional mental health counselor, a former ordained minister, congrats, turned atheist activist and researcher, and writer on issues related to religion, secular social justice, and the African American community. Please join me in welcoming today's speaker, Candace Gorham.
Well, as long as we're gonna stay on the religious thing, I want everybody to help me give a hand of praise to Sister Mathis over here for her work. She was man before the Lord. You know what? As soon as she started talking, I was like, she sounds like a former minister. Like my soul was just like, I was just like listening. I was just like listening to your like her cadence and her tone and just like her voice, and I was just like, oh, I was just loving it. And then she was like, she was a former minister. I was like, yes. That was me in the back when you were like, I want to thank God. And I was like, I get it, girl. Like I'm always saying, didn't I tell you that last night? Like I'm always saying stuff like, oh Lord Jesus, help. Like, and I can tell people all the time, like, no, I'm still a promise, like I'm not a believer, like just ignore me, like I just do that. Like, Lord Jesus, help me, I'm sorry. If I do that during the talk, just know that don't mean anything. Okay. So anyway, yeah, so the Ebony Exodus Project, where have all the Black people gone? Okay. So yeah, about me, my religious upbringing was all over the place. My dad, when I was younger, was a Jehovah's Witness, so we did that whole Jehovah's thing for a few years until my parents divorced. And they divorced when I was about the age 9. And so when my parents separated, my mom wasn't into the Jehovah's Witness thing, so she was like, thank goodness. So she didn't make us do that anymore. My crazy self, though, I was like, I want to still do it. So I continued to do home studies, even though, like, my brothers and my sisters and my mama was like, okay, those people here for you. We going in the other room. And so I don't know what was wrong with me. Like, I was always that kind of child that was, like, super serious about, like, my spiritual beliefs. And so, like, in middle school, I got highly involved in the Methodist church. My dad's family of origin, you know, they're like the family church, right? It's a Methodist church, and like all of my cousins and family and everybody still goes to Collins Grove United Methodist Church. And so I got involved there, and I got confirmed in the Methodist church, and I sang in the choir, and I did all of that stuff there. And then I got in high school, and I got a boyfriend, and I got a job, and I started having sex, and I did my thing. So, you know, of course, I had to stop going to church because, you know, that didn't feel right. And so, but I graduated high school, went to college, and then my sister married this evangelical minister kind of guy. And then that's when things got crazy. And we were casting out demons, and so I was a prophetess. And so if you were at the if you were at the AA conference last week, you should have brought my book. If you didn't buy my book, you missed out on an opportunity to get your own individual prophecy. Because after I gave my talk and I went and had my little signing, everybody who got a book, I signed and I gave them their own individual prophecy. Okay? Like, for example, one prophecy was, I remember one guy I wrote, like, you're going to have lots of great sex tonight. Be sure to wrap up. That was one prophecy. Okay, so you missed out on your opportunity to get a good prophecy. I'm just saying. It was only $15. Good price. I mean, that was cheaper than Clio, but okay. So, of course, I was involved, and now I'm involved in a lot of these activities. Secular Therapist Project, Clergy Project, that's a lot of you probably know Darryl Ray. He's involved in those things. Black Humanist Alliance, that's related, that's connected to the American Humanist Association. I'm involved with that organization. And the Secular Student Alliance Speakers Bureau, of course. Okay. So the Ebony Exodus Project, that's how I got going in all of this. I wrote a book. It came out 2012, right? And so the book itself, it involved these 10. I did a whole bunch of interviews. I got like 25 interviews for that book. And since then, I don't know how many more interviews I have. I got a whole library of interviews of black folk, right? But in that book, I included these 10 interviews. It was black women about their stories leaving religion, right? So all of these different stories of these women and their experiences. These were all interviews from 2011, and like I said, the book was published in 2012. I also discussed all these different things, religion in the black community, mental health, emotional health, physical health, sex, all that stuff as well. Well, where were black folk the black atheists in 2011? At that time, it was so hard to find people to interview. I was on Facebook. I was on Facebook groups. I was texting. I was like, can y'all please help me? I'm looking for some women. I'm looking for some people. And people were, like sliding in the Facebook group, like nice and secret, like, like, okay, you can interview me. But, like, are you going to use my name in the book? And they were like, you can interview me, but you can't use my name in the book. Like, I'm not out yet. And it was like, so I was like, all right, okay. So there are several stories in the book that are pseudonyms, right? So back then, a lot of people were not out at the time. Black Non-Believers of Atlanta, a lot of you probably know the name Mandisa Thomas. In 2011, it had just started. There was the only other group that I can think of off the top of my head at the moment, that was another group that had, like, these were two groups. It was Facebook. That was basically it. It was like if you were a black non-believer, atheist, agnostic, whatever, and you were looking for somewhere to go for community, Facebook was your only place to go. And these were the two groups that you're, as far as black groups. That's what, as far as my recollection right now, today. And a lot of people felt like black atheists, there was black non-believers of Atlanta, and then there was black atheists of Atlanta. And a lot of people started falling off from black atheists of Atlanta because they felt like black atheists of Atlanta was a little bit too militant. So that group is a little, it's still active today, but it definitely has a very different tone than black non-believers, okay? And then what I also heard then, and I hear now, continue to hear, is that black non-believers, especially back then though, let's go back then, is that when, again, like I said, they didn't have anywhere to go. So when they're dipping their toe into this, like, let me see what's going on in the atheist world, in the non-believer world, let me see what I can find out about these people, their only options were to go into white groups, right? Not necessarily white groups, but the groups that existed, which were predominantly not white, not black, right? And so they, to be honest, they just found those groups unfulfilling, right? They didn't speak to black issues. They didn't speak to black folk. They didn't, a lot of black people, complained about, all they do is talk about science. What about social justice issues? There was so much more and then it was just in general, like, these people racist, like, oh my God, they saying stupid stuff, and like, I can't stand it, and I just don't want to be in this group. And so, and the same thing even with meetups. The ones who were bold enough to step out and go to a meetup, the complaint was often like, they felt like they kind of would stand off in a corner and nobody would talk to them, or they felt like they would come in and everybody was like, oh, the black person, like, hey, like, hey, how are you? And like everybody wants to talk to the black person. And like, wait, like I am not, a Van Gogh. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, that's downtown Houston, right? And so it's one of those situations where a lot of times, like I said, in 2011, 12, 13, black non-believers, black atheists, agnostics, all that, they just found a hard time finding somewhere to go that felt right. Okay, so that's where they were then. Okay, so the term oftentimes that comes up now, and that came up a lot then, because again, like I said, what the big group that you saw was black non-believers. That sort of honestly is what really became sort of the go-to organization or Facebook group, which is now grown into organizations. The term non-believer seemed to kind of proliferate as the most workable term, at least that I hear in the black community a lot. And again, like I said, if I'm flashing back 2011, 2012, 2013, what kind of term did I hear a lot in the black community? It was more along the lines of that non-believer, non-believer, non-believer. You didn't hear a whole lot of atheists. You didn't hear a whole lot of people saying atheists. As you all might imagine, the word atheist is just scary. In the black, it's just a scary term in our society, right? Non-believer is less jarring, you know what I'm saying? Because people still think, atheists are devil worshipers, right? They still think, in my interviews, I had, people who literally said, more than one person I've interviewed has said that when they came out to someone in their family that they were atheists, that the person was like, you're a devil worshiper. And they had to explain, like, no, actually, I don't even believe that there's a devil. And it's like, how is that possible? And it's like, and so this is like, I'm sure you guys can imagine, but it's interesting to me that in my interviews, that has come up multiple times in my interviews, that like, multiple people have experienced, trying to explain to their families the term atheist, and it's so difficult. And so they're just like, I'm going to just stick with non-believer, And of course, non-believer is just a little bit more user-friendly, right? Non-believer, well, non-believer in what? I just don't, I don't believe in much of anything. It's like, oh, okay. Oftentimes, and I found like years ago, that was sort of my term as well, non-believer. And I found that it slid by so much easier. To be like, so, you go to church or whatever and be like, no, I'm a non-believer. Non-believer, what? Well, I just, I really don't do much of anything. And she'd be like, what you mean much of anything? I just don't really go to church. I don't do much of it. I'm a non-believer. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And then it just keep it moving. But, you say atheist, you either going to get like, okay. Or you're going to get, who knows what you're going to get. But non-believer just kind of, slides right on by and the day can go. And you don't have no drama. And I think a lot of black people sort of had the same experience, at least, again, in my interviews and the people that I've talked to. Okay? So that's where we were then. A lot of them were in the closet. Again, like I said, at the time when I wrote the book, what was going on? It was a lot of closeted. It was a lot of people not knowing where to go. They were confused. They were lost. They felt isolated. It was like so refreshing. So many of my black non-believer friends that I made, in 2010, 2011, are still, like, I met somebody for the first time last weekend that I've known for probably like 10 years. And I was like, oh my God, what's up, girl? And we hugged, and she was like, this is my first time meeting you. And I was like, no, this ain't. I was like, we met before? She was like, Candace, this our first time meeting. And I was like, no, you wrong. Like, that's how much we felt like we knew each other. It was just this instantaneous, like, yo! And we just like ran and hugged each other and stuff. And she had to like really tell me that we had never met before. Like, I really honestly did not believe that we had never met before. Like, that's how close I have felt to this woman all these years. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I just know this woman. And I'm like, like, even right now, I'm standing right here, and I really feel like I need to go back and, like, check messages, because I'm like, I really think she might have forgotten, like, we've met. Like, maybe she forgot, and she's like, no, Candace. And I'm like, man, you forgot. Like, I don't know when or where, but we've met somewhere, and you just don't remember. And she's like, no, Candace, we ain't never met. And so anyway, so where are they today? They're all over the place. Just the fact, again, every time I go to an event and I think, oh, this is going to be a white event. This is not going to be any black folk here. Like, I'm like, I'm just like shocked, even just here, like even literally here today. I am shocked at the number of black people that I see here today. Like, seriously, I am shocked at the number of black people that I see here today. You know what I'm saying? So that's it, because when I first started out at speaking 10 years ago, or 8 years ago, or however many, subtract, there would not have been any black people in this room. It would not have been. If there was one, we would have both run to each other and hugged each other, be like, yo, you a black atheist too? Yes. You know what I'm saying? And 9 times out of 10, the other person would have been like, well, no, actually, I'm not out yet. And I probably would have been like, well, actually, the only reason I'm out is because my book is out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I legit did not really talk about it a whole lot with my family. Like, I came out to my family when my book came out. Like, I kind of sort of talked about it. Like, I talked about it, but I didn't really talk about it. Like, it was kind of like, Like, I tried to talk about it to my mama, but she wasn't really that interested. And I kept trying to talk about it, and she was like, And it literally took my aunt calling her and being like, Candace's book is out. She's an atheist. And my mama was like, no, she's not. And she was like, yes, she is. Look up her book. It's online. She's an atheist. And then my mama called me crying. It's like, you're an atheist. And I'm like, I've been trying to show you my book. Like, I tried to give you my manuscript to read. I, like, literally gave her the manuscript. And she was like, but why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, Ma, I've been trying to talk to you for a long time, and you just keep putting the conversation out. And then she's like, well, what does that mean? And so I broke it down, and she, like, breaks into tears, and she's just like, well, And anyway, she basically said, like, she loved me, and she knew that I was a good, smart person, and she knew that, like, whatever I did with my life, that, like, I was going to do it right, and I was going to do it well, and she loved me. But she needed to get off the phone because she needed to cry. And so she hung up crying, and she went and cried, and then, like, the next day she called me back, and, like, we've been good ever since. So my mama gave me no drama about it. But she cried, and she found out from my aunt, who found out from online, who called her and told her. And I'm like, I tried to tell you, Mama. You found out the wrong way. But anyway, I'm sorry. So point is, I'm surprised at how many black atheists are in the room today. Okay, and not only are they everywhere, but they call themselves atheists too. I don't know how I'm doing on time, y'all. They call themselves atheists as well. And everything else in between. Agnostics, non-theists, humanists, secularists. I mean, they call themselves everything, and they call it out in the open. And look, I mean, it was so fun. It's so fun looking for, like, what black atheist groups are there. And I was like, black atheist parents and grandparents. I was like, oh, you guys are too cute. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, black atheists parents and grandparents. So, I was like, oh, y'all are so cute. Like the parents and grandparents of atheists. Like, y'all so great. black atheists dating. I mean, it's just everything that you can look for now. I mean, that's on Facebook. It's stuff on Meetup. I mean, it's stuff all over the place now, specifically geared towards black atheists. Of course, you guys know Mandisa. Black non-believers has just proliferated. I mean, expanded. It's just blown up over the past couple of years. Now I think I don't have it in order. I feel like maybe New Orleans, she said, is the most recent addition. But now they're up to 12 chapters, I mean, and it just started out with lowly little black non-believers of Atlanta, and now she's up to 12 chapters, I mean, which is just beautiful, and I mean, and you guys, you cannot imagine, how influential, it cannot be understated how influential this organization has been for black non-believers. Like, it really cannot be. At least for, it can't be. Okay. So anyway, like I said, they're just everywhere now, right? So there's plenty that I'm sure you guys know, right? Some right here in y'all own backyard, right? Y'all know these guys. I started to put like a plain, just like a little signature thing up there, Alex. I don't know if y'all know Alex, but he always brags about how pretty he is. So I wasn't going to put his picture. I was going to just put his signature up there, and then I was going to send him a screenshot of this slide and be like, see, I didn't even put your picture up there. Some you might know. Well, y'all know, anybody know Graydon Square, the rapper? No? Oh my God, he's a black atheist rapper. Great rap music. If you're into rap music and you want some atheist rap music, good shit. Okay, anybody know Leanne Lord? Leanne Lord, funny as hell, hilarious. She's out of New York. She also happens to be a soror, Sigma Gamma Rho Yip. Okay. Victor Harris. Anybody know Victor Harris? He's funny. He's a comedian, a poet, business owner. He's in California. Steve Hill, he's a comedian and a politician. So funny, a couple of years ago, he ran in California for state senate as an out Satanist. Right. It was funny. It was, again, his profession, he's a comedian. But he was very serious, like he was serious about that thing. I mean, he was like fundraising, like he was doing events and everything. But yeah, he was an out Satanist. That was his thing. He was like, I'm going to just see. Okay? And then here are some other ones, like some other people. I mean, these are, again, this is just to show, like, again, these are people that we all know, right? These are the ones that have been out there for years. I'm on this list. Mandisa's on this list, right? We've been around forever. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm all in front of things. Right? We've been around forever. But, again, these guys have been around for a while. I would say a good portion of black non-believers, at least, again, like I said, ones who have been really plugged in, especially if they've been plugged in with literally the organization Black Non-Believers. If they've been plugged in with that organization, I would say probably a good portion of them would know these artists right here and these individuals. But then these are people who are up and coming. Karama, he's a photographer. He's great, does good stuff. McBrooks is a rapper. He's good. D.K. Evans, he wrote a book recently, The Emancipation of a Black Atheist, and I blurbed it. That came out a couple of years ago. Really good book. I wish I had put the title of it up there, but it's sort of like a conversation between a black atheist and a white person, I think. I can't remember. It's been a while since I read it. I blurbed it. Sorry. But it was a conversation between the black atheist and somebody else. And it was really interesting the way the book is written in this conversational style. Monica Burns, again, she's a artist, a writer that's coming up. Sanjay Davis, she's a business owner, activist out of D.C. She's active, like really active on the Hill. She, right now she's getting involved with Black Humanist Alliance. We're going to be doing a lobby day. She's going to be involved with us on that lobby day. So my point in showing you these people is that these are people that, again, like a lot of Black non-believers don't know, right? These are people who I'm kind of starting to push out there to say, like, look, guys, these are people who are doing things. These are people who are up and coming, who actually have materials out there. And the other point that I want to make is that the content, the topics of interest has expanded. So you have a lot of Black atheists, Black non-believers who are out there and they're doing a lot of work, but now it's beginning to expand to the point that it's not just, hey, I'm doing Black atheist work. It's I'm a Black atheist who is a photographer. I'm a Black atheist who is who is an activist, and I'm an out activist. You know what I'm saying? So I'm doing such and such a work. I'm doing whatever type of work I do, but I'm just doing it as an out Black atheist, and I think that that's a new, bright, amazing, beautiful, wonderful movement that's going on, and I think that those are some of the things that's helping other Black people just begin to come out, in droves. I mean, they're coming out in droves. I went on the Black Non-Believers Cruise. They do a convention at sea. It's going to be an annual thing now. I've been to the last two. I went this past November, and there were a couple of people on the cruise who were not even out on the cruise, and then after they left the cruise, they came out to the family, to their family. It was like, what, this community, this camaraderie, being around all these strong, old Black folk that's out and just feeling that community and knowing like, wow, this is real. Like there really are Black people who are out, and not just out, but they are like living full lives as out atheists. You know what? I'm a 50-year-old Black woman. I got my own business and I own my house and I do da-da-da-da-da. Why can't I be out? And she got off that boat and got home and came out to her family and was like, I don't know y'all nothing. I'm out. And so these having spaces and being around other people like that is very empowering, and it's been very meaningful for a lot of Black people to have these organizations and to have this space and to be known and to be seen. So that's where all the Black atheists have gone. They're out here. They're everywhere now. Oh, yeah. I don't know if anybody can see my meme slide.
We have about a little less than 10 minutes for Q&A. So we'll be on both sides of the room. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand.
I see a hand back here in the green shirt.
Yeah.
Candace, thank you. I really enjoyed your presentation. I want to kind of ask about what you were talking about, your personal experience when you were going to some of your first, I guess, forays and venturing out to atheist, humanist, agnostic, secular groups, and how it was mostly white, and one of two things happened. Either they totally ignored you, or you got swarmed because they felt like they needed a person of color, and you really didn't feel, I guess, appropriately welcomed in either extreme. And I can understand that. But I guess just for learning purposes, what should just groups in general do whenever they see a new person of color what's the appropriate middle ground to avoid? What can they do to avoid these two extremes and hit the appropriate middle ground?
Yeah, I mean, you do need somebody to greet them and meet them and talk to them, right? I mean, I'm a mental health clinician, right? So I kind of want to brainstorm things, right? And this may sound cheesy, okay? And I actually don't know if this is the right answer. But I'm just thinking, as a way to brainstorm sort of things, right? You may literally want to sort of identify a couple of people and say, these are our couple of people who are going to introduce themselves, and nobody else is going to swarm them. You know, Miss Jackie, you talk too much. You are not going to swarm the new black person. You stay away. No, I don't know. But seriously, you know, maybe you identify a couple of people, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe something like that, you know, definitely so that you know, like, let's say, for example, if you see nobody's talking to them, then okay, like, hey, these couple of people will be sure to talk to them. You know what I'm saying? And if you see people swarming them, then, you know, maybe one of your organizers or something will just be like go tell people to back off or something like that, like seriously. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's say if you have like your greeters or you have something like that, or, you know, if you have like, say, or like identified greeters or something like that, I say you definitely want to have those types of people. But I promise you, if you have one or two black people in your midst, they will introduce themselves to each other. Will they not? They will find their way to each other. So you definitely, if you got some black folk in the room, you know that they're going to introduce themselves to each other. But you do want to kind of make sure that they find their way to some other people, you know, so that they're talking. But I mean, at the same time, a person may come back several times over and over because they make a connection to one or two black people. I went to Triangle Free Thought Society is a subsidiary of Free FFRF in my area of North Carolina. Big deal in our area. And again, like I said, when I first came out and I first started going, it was like one other black guy going, two other black guys going. And when I went to the first event, the three of us all did the same thing. It was like, yo, like we literally did these things out loud in front of all the white people because y'all been here forever. Y'all how, you know, y'all 70, whatever, 67, what percentage of the population are y'all? We're 13. So we feel like we earned the right to walk in the room and amongst a bunch of white people and go, yo, oh my God, what's up? Woo. You know what I'm saying? And I continued to go back because I knew that there would at least be a couple of black people in the room that I was comfortable with. And I eventually I like the white folk too. I liked them. They were cool. They turned out to be all right. I kept a couple of them in my life.
All right, second question on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
Richard, I don't think your mic is working.
I'll repeat it. Oh, excellent. He's my ride to the airport, so no matter what you say, you're going to get the best answer possible. Uh-huh. No, I haven't. No. You know, just being here this one day, I emailed or I sent a message to Ashton, and you know, it was just, you know how these things are. When you come in so last minute, it was poor planning on my part. I did not inform them in sufficient time that I was coming, so I will take the blame for that. Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent.
All right, question back here.
Uh-huh.
Hi, I was actually wondering what are these groups actually doing to...
Can you pull the mic up some?
Hi, I was wondering what the black groups are actually doing to dismantle things that are in the black community, like real issues, as far as like colorism. You know, there's so many things as far as like black womanhood, black manhood, and addressing problems like, you know, there's fatherlessness and things like that. What are they doing as a community to like combat these things, and how are you building unity and Black love and trust within, because, and also supporting Black-owned businesses and things like that, because those are very important. Because of all, we know what happened with slavery, and your culture was taken away, our culture was taken away. Are you guys actually building a new Black culture? Because that's something that needs to happen. I understand that some people still want to hold on to some aspects of Black culture, how it's just developed after slavery. But I feel like there needs to be a reemergence of a new type of Black culture, and I am seeing that. I'm seeing Black veganism. I'm a Black vegan, and to have a visible space where we're seeing we can actually come together and talk to each other, especially like sub-cultures of Black people. We don't have enough representations of different types of Black people that are not stereotypical, that are not the type that you see on these crazy TV shows or in the news. Because I'm a Black girl that listens to heavy metal. You wouldn't think that by looking at me. You wouldn't think I was a vegan by looking at me. I probably just look like a church girl. And it's very important to have spaces where Black nerds are able to come together, where we're not, because in the Black community, there's a lot of, if you're different from the stereotype, if you're not a Beyonce, you're ostracized. If you're too dark, you're ostracized. You're put into a category like, oh, we don't want you here. And then that pushes you into spaces of other groups of people. And then you become very resentful of the Black community. And I was wondering, what are you guys doing to kind of dismantle that? Because it's very, very important to me. And if I have to start my own group in order to do that, I will, because it's something that needs to happen, because there's too much of us going out and trying to find cohesion within other groups of people, but not coming together, and building family and building, we can talk about the past. Right. We can talk about how the state of it is now, but ultimately, we need to talk about the future of the Black community. I mean, we're only 14% of the population. We should be more percent of the population.
Well, let me jump in. So I don't know exactly what types of groups or whatever that you found or that you have access to in the area, but I think that a lot of the Black non-believers, the Black groups that I have been to, that I've visited as I travel the country, say for example, California, they've got like Black Humanists of Sacramento, or Black, as I travel the country and I visit these groups, I find all of the Black groups they're all very welcoming to all types. Like I said, we've got Black Satanists in this heavy metal listeners. You got your LGBTQ, group over here that's welcome. We got actually what's becoming very popular is Black poly. It's becoming very obvious and very out there. I'm poly. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of people, like all of that is becoming out and open. Like you said, just lifestyles as far as how you eat, how you drink, whatever, veganism, all of those different things. That stuff is out there. That stuff is open. And I think that as far as Black non-believers in general, I think what it has taken to reject religion means that you've rejected a whole lot of stuff that in turn has opened, that makes people open to a whole lot of stuff. Now, obviously, again, like I said, that group like Black Atheists of Atlanta, not to be confused with Black. Now, that group was very nasty. They were very, bigoted about everything. So there are definitely plenty of nasty Black atheists, just like there's nasty everything, right? There's nasty everything in every group, right? But another thing that's becoming really big in the Black community movement right now is Black humanism and Black secularism. Now, I would say, though, if you want to look to say, okay, maybe let me see where can I find something more specific. Like I said, black humanism more specifically is becoming, say, more of a thing. And I feel like I'm sort of transitioning to a place where if I have to use a term or whatever, like, yeah, I'm all of that. But I like the term humanist because it encompasses, to me, so much more of what's important, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, like Oasis, right, what I'm really concerned about is this stuff, right? Yeah, okay, and I think that, you know, sort of my deconversion process is just being an arc. And I think a lot of people go through that arc. It's like, oh, I hate religion. You know, even though I didn't leave religion out of any kind of anger or anything like that, but I left religion, right? I got out of that. Like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't even want to listen to Christian music. Like, I'm not going to say praise God. You know, I'm not going to do any of that. And I went through all of this stuff. And now I'm to a place now where it's like, it's all of this stuff that's really important to me. And this stuff is all that matters to the point that I can say, like, girl, yeah, praise God, you know, won't he do it as a joke and keep it moving? And that's not the kind of thing that's like, ugh, I'm not going to. And so I think that you will find black humanism might be more of sort of, might be what you're looking for, and that I think is a growing area. But you just got to get plugged in somehow, somewhere, because like I said, as I travel the country, it's everything that you just said. It's there. I mean, it exists and it's growing. It's just in pockets, and we just got to grow it. You know what that means, right? It means you got to do it.
We're out of time for Q&A, but I believe Candace is going to join us for lunch afterward if you would like to ask her your question in person. And so we'll just wrap it up and go ahead, Josh.
Thank you very much.